Greetings, friends. Please join us for our new Torah Hebrew Immersion series. In this series, we will immerse in Torah and Hebrew. We will learn while working in the text. And we shall discover a new reality. Learn biblical Hebrew. Learn Torah structure. Aleph, Beit, Gimel, 1, 2, 3. We're going to be guided by the numerical structure of the Torah. And this is something new to a lot of people. It is a marvelous thing. Come and learn at your own pace. Language immersion. That's what this is all about. You're going to be immersed in the language of the Torah, but you're going to be immersed in the Torah at the same time. So you don't have to study Hebrew before you can immerse yourself in the Torah. And there are a lot of methods of doing this, but this is our method. Learning a second language is an unnatural experience unless one's environment is multilingual by nature or necessity. This is one of a series of lessons that are designed to permit the learner to be simultaneously immersed in Torah and Hebrew. The lessons are aimed at removing the frustration of having to learn Hebrew before learning the Torah text. If our mission is successful, one will have difficulty differentiating whether he is learning Hebrew or Torah. Understanding our perspective of Torah and Hebrew immersion. And I'm saying our perspective. That's why it's underlined, because there are many ways to go into an immersion class. For example, if you were going to go into a language immersion class, once you walked in the classroom door, they only spoke in that language and never in any other language. This is not like that, and yet it is like that, in that we're going to have to use English and we're going to use Hebrew, but we're going to learn all this within the context of the Torah, and we're not going to leave the Torah. The Torah, the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, is not only the primary source of instruction, it is the divine source of instruction. The Torah is written in the Hebrew language, which has both a numerical structure and linguistic embellishments. Now, the Torah has that, not necessarily the Hebrew language. The Torah has a numerical structure and linguistic embellishments. But all that is found in the Hebrew language that constitutes the Torah. The Torah is where one encounters the Creator, and to ignore either the language, structure, or embellishments automatically limits one's encounter with the Creator. Again, we're understanding our perspective of Torah and Hebrew immersion. Now, you might say, well, I'm concerned about the New Testament. I'm concerned about the Talmud. Uh, I'm not concerned just about the Torah. Well, the Torah is the foundation of everything. Actually, without the Torah, there would not be any Judaism, and there would not be any Christianity, and there would not be any Islam. So we're going to the foundation of these monotheistic faiths. So that's where our perspective is coming from. Please enter the conversation as a family member. You are seated at the family table, and notebooks are not required here. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't take notes, and that doesn't mean that you should not desire to take notes. And what it's saying is that you're going to learn this in a natural setting, a family discussion, just an ongoing family discussion. That's you as a child, whatever language you may have been born into, you didn't learn that language by first learning how to conjugate the verbs and decline the nouns and all that kind of stuff. You just learned it in a natural setting amongst your family members. Try to get that picture into your mind as we progress along. Try to understand and interact with what you can at the moment. Don't be concerned that, oh, I got to remember that, I got to. No, just take it in, enjoy it at the moment. Because I guarantee you, it's all going to come back again in different venues and maybe from different perspectives. But just remember, this is an ongoing conversation. So get involved. Don't be afraid to ask questions. But remember that only the text can provide absolute answers. So you must question the text. I know as you're here listening to this series, you're going to say, oh, I wish I could ask him that question. I wish I could. That's a great temptation, and we all have it, and we've all gone through it. How nice it would have been to, say, professor, but the professor doesn't always give the Q&A time frame. You have to question the text yourself. And we are just guides to help you to learn to question the text yourself. While the conversation may be ongoing, it continually cycles and recycles important information in multiple settings. You can pause and rewind the conversation as you wish. But don't worry about that so much. Don't be just jerking back and forth and feel that you have to do that, because you don't. Just get what you can, because this conversation is just going to recycle the same information over and over again. It is interesting that God, as we're going to see real shortly here, God fabricated his whole Torah with 10 thought, 10 lines of thought. He wove them all together to make the pattern of the Torah. So you're going to get this. Just take in what you can at the moment. Enjoy it. This is a family discussion. Actually, that's the way the Torah was meant to be studied among the family. Unfortunately, we have failed greatly in that area, but this is a family discussion. All human beings have one spiritual father, so everyone belongs at the table. Oh, wow. One spiritual father. That's something we say, and it's rather lofty in our minds, but we're going to find out that there's something really, really significant about this. Our goal is sincere family fellowship involved in divine Torah conversation, and not the arrogance of mixed knowledgeability. Mixed knowledgeability. I know that in itself probably is a little scary term, but we're going to study the Torah from the Torah itself. We're not going to look at what men said about the Torah. We're not going to look at other books. We're going to look at only the Torah. We're going to understand the Torah from the way that the author used his words and his thought patterns, and we're not going to look elsewhere. Now, mixed knowledge is the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and that's the problem. It's mixed. You get both. You have to sort it all out. God didn't intend that. He put two special trees in the center of the garden. Not much is said about the tree of life, but the tree of life only produced one thing: life. But he did command Adam not to eat of the tree of mixed knowledge. And of course, we know that how that worked out. But our lives are now involved in mixed knowledge. There is good and there is evil. And we must continually sort that out. So, in our studies, we don't want to use that mixed knowledge. It could be very helpful. And I'm not saying, well, what I'm talking about mixed knowledge here, I'm talking about things like the Talmud. I'm talking about things like the New Testament, things like the Quran. There are probably many valuable insights to be found in all those things, but they're not primarily where we need to learn from. If you venture to those things, which we all have to, it seems like, we should have the foundation. And the foundation is the Torah that gives life. So mixed knowledgeability is not a bad thing, that I'm condemning anyone for having it. I'm just saying that it's not a part of this discussion. So if you're looking to find great Talmudic insight or insights into the New Testament or the Quran, you're going to be disappointed, because they're probably, if there are any, are going to point in the other direction that you need to understand Torah first. So this is lesson 1 of this series. I believe this series has 3 parts. Beit is the first of numbers, ordinals, and consonants found in the Torah. And this lesson is built upon the rock-solid numerical structure of the Torah. And it is presented by me, Philip E. Stiefel, from Avi Publications, avipublications.com, and YouTube channel Torah 123. So you say, what on earth is the rock-solid numerical structure of the Torah? Well, in a nutshell, 10 foundational principles that form the structure of the Torah, and possibly the whole of creation. The numerical structure of the Torah is the foundation upon which all our teachings rest. And I say our, that's the teachings that you're going to find on avipublications.com and Torah 123 YouTube channel. The numerical structure of the Torah. In other words, structure and foliage, numerals and letters, embedded and apparent. Oh, wow. The structure must have preceded the leaves. This is very important. The structure must have preceded the leaves. The hidden numerical structure of the Torah. Now, I want to caution you about that word hidden. It's not hidden that it's not meant to be found, and it's not deep that, well, I don't want to say I've spent many years researching it, but it's on the surface. Once you understand where this is at, it's amazing. So it's not hidden that it can't be found, and if you just know what to look for, you don't need much training to find it. So the hidden numerical structure of the Torah means it's just really slightly below the surface, just like the leaves on the tree. Just peel back the leaves and you can see all that structure in there. I know I'm saying it again, the numerical structure of the Torah, and you're probably saying this is redundant. Well, you've never heard it before, and you need to keep hearing that, to realize that, think about what it is. So what did I tell you before? 10 principles. 10 principles. Well, principles is kind of difficult. When you see what they look like, you'll say, well, they don't seem like principles. Well, I really could not think of any other thing to describe them with accurately in an English term, so I called them principles, but there is this extra way to look at it. And you might consider them as 10 patterns of thought. patterns of thought that weave the fabric of the Torah. So let's take a glimpse of them. First principle or pattern of thought: the Creator is the foundation of every created thing. And you might say, well, what is that? Well, I want to tell you something. There's only one thing that is not created, and that is the Creator. Everything else is created. So He is the foundation upon which everything that exists, whether it be in our human thoughts, our words, or tangible or intangible, He is the foundation of everything. So obviously, if you had to reduce this thought to one word, it would be foundation or Creator, because they are synonymous. Principle number 2, division, separation, or two aspects of a matter. Principle 3, an encounter with the Creator. Principle 4, action on the part of God or man. Principle 5, honor creators, long life. So you see how they're not like laws of gravity and things like that, these are patterns of thought, but they are principal patterns of thought. These are in the Creator's mind the whole time that He is composing the Torah. Now, I said that He is composing the Torah because, you see, a lot of people don't believe that God is the author of the Torah. There are multiple authors over a long period of time. They fragment the Torah. But as we're going to see, that these patterns of thought are so intricate and so involved in every aspect that it would be rather difficult for a random or a group of men over an extended period of time to work these out so accurately and specifically. So this is a formidable challenge to those who would assault the divine authorship of the Torah. But they don't think that because we could present the case so clearly that they'll accept it, because Pharaoh had a pretty clear vision of God's person and power, but he never accepted it, nor did those who followed him to his demise. The sixth principle, mankind or human nature. The seventh principle, completion, cycle or cycle of repeated events. The eighth principle, an exchange, good or bad. The ninth principle, a good matter, functioning according to the divine plan. The 10th principle, a command, a covenant, or a test of a covenant. A special word of thanks to the tool makers. Without the capabilities of the Bible Scholar software, none of this research concerning the numerical structure of the Torah would have been within my grasp. Bible Scholar software can be viewed and purchased at this address. All Hebrew consonant, syllable, and word searches. All punctuation and vowel pointing. All Hebrew to English translations and quotations. All of the above tasks were performed with the Bible Scholar software. Please note that I do not receive any compensation from the Bible Scholar software. All quotations from the Hebrew Bible are from the Bible Scholar software unless otherwise designated. Permission to use these quotations has not been requested since they are used according to the purpose and design of the software in an academic venue. As a scholar researching the numerical structure, one would have to seek daily permission to publish each aspect of research. This is how reliant I am upon this software. The multitude of unique searches required to demonstrate the existence and validity of the underlying numerical structure could not be efficiently accomplished without a computer, the Bible Scholar search engine, and its accompanying translation. Microsoft PowerPoint provided a creative platform to pictorially present the truths of the numerical structure of the Torah. Scientists probe the depths of the universe with a telescope for observation and numbers for calculation of its hidden secrets. Is the Torah any less of a creation than the universe? There we have the consonant Beit. It is also the number 2. It is also the ordinal second. The consonant Beit. So what you see in one graphic depiction of a Hebrew consonant really involves 3 concepts: a number, an ordinal, and a consonant. Our textbook, the Torah. The author, the creator, your father, your teacher, your God. This is our textbook. The creator is its author. Moses inscribed these words for us. The faithful scribes of Israel throughout the ages have preserved them for us. Come on, let's immerse in the deep waters of the Torah. Yes, it can be intimidating, but believe me, it is not that dangerous. I guarantee you it will be refreshingly exhilarating. Do you mean that I'm going to be able to study the Hebrew text right now? Yep, you got it. Isn't that cool and refreshing? You can be studying the Torah in Hebrew every day, starting right now. The first verse, vessel of the Torah. Now you're going to see this word vessel a whole lot. And I'm not going to go into great depth to it, but I come from a maritime culture, and that has been a vehicle for me to understand things. A verse is a vessel of knowledge. A vessel is a container. It's a container that flows, or that is, to me, floats upon the water and is able to be towed or powered from one destination to another. So I view a vessel or a verse as a vessel coming down from heaven, from the Creator here to earth. And I explain this in other videos, but just so you know, you're wondering, well, where does he get that from? I use the word vessel and verse interchangeably. Now, this is an important thing that you need to realize here, that you see, every author, and right now I'm an author because I'm authoring this discussion, every author has his own use of words. You have to understand his terminology, and that's what we're all about. We are going to understand the Creator's terminology. Not necessarily does it work with our definitions. We have to look at how he defines it, how he saw it. So this author sees sees a verse as a vessel. You've had to learn that, because as we go along, I'll probably stop using verse and you'll be talking vessel, and if you miss that, you'll think, where does he get that from? Okay, so we need to understand how the author uses his words. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Here is the first verse in Hebrew. See the Beit up in the right-hand corner there in red. Here is the first number. So you could actually say that the Torah starts with a 2. Here is the first ordinal. It starts with a second. Second what? The second consonant. And here is the consonant, Beit. Here is the English translation of the first verse of the Torah from the Bible Scholar translation. Now I'm going to say something here we need to understand this is a poor translation, and the discussion that you are about to embrace is going to begin to show you why this is a poor translation. But believe it or not, this is going to take many lessons because this is really critical. Now you say, well, first of all, this is no reflection on Bible Scholar software because they've just followed the general way of translating this Torah verse. So what are the problems? I want to point out just a few of the problems. The first, absolutely, is in the beginning. That this phrase is a misnomer, very poor translation, because it actually says inside first of. First of is never related to an intangible thing such as time. It's always related to something tangible. It says, in the beginning, God created the heaven. No, it doesn't say that. It says, in the beginning, God created the heavens. That's a plural word. You say, well, wait a minute. I mean, is that a big deal? Well, it is, because you're going to find out very shortly as you move along in this that there would be then two things. There's the far heavens, which this is, and then there's the firmament heaven, which is called the rakia. So we are misled, and not intentionally. It's a matter of misunderstanding, and it's a misunderstanding that exists not only in this language, but it exists in the thoughts probably of the Hebrew people as well. So this is going to say this discussion is going to seem complicated, but I guarantee you're going to learn so much from that consonant up there that starts the Torah. Now think about this for a moment. How much concentration does an author put into the first word of the Torah? I mean, it's getting that first word down. And, God is actually introducing himself, but when he introduced himself to the Hebrew people at Mount Sinai, he just stepped right in and said, I am. But we don't see that here. We don't actually encounter God's name until the third word, and that says something in itself. So we're going to learn many, many things here that I guarantee you will excite you and cause you to wonder at God's marvelous creation of his Torah. From my notes, a contextual primer of the Hebrew alphabet, utilizing the numerical structure of the Torah. Philip E. Stiefel, Sr. Well, what you're looking at here is a vision. I do not have this in book form, although I'm probably very close, but I have so many other things that have to be done. But I have studied the Hebrew alphabet from how it is used in the Torah. That's what you're going to see here as we investigate the consonant Beit, which happens to be the first consonant that's introduced, and that's why we're looking at it. But we're going to look at it how God used it, not what man thinks about it, and not what we get from graphic depictions. We're going to look at how the author of the Torah used the consonant Beit. Over the past 5 years, I've compiled a substantial amount of notes regarding the Creator's usage of each consonant of the Torah. Those observations have brought to light the numerical structure which is embedded in every facet of the Torah. Look, we're talking about consonants. We're going to find a numerical structure in the consonants. Then we're going to go to syllables, and then we're going to go to consonant clusters, and then we're going to go to words, and then we're going to go to concepts, and then we're going to go to chapters and books. And this fabric of the numerical structure of the Torah is embedded in every aspect of the Torah. Awesome. And it testifies of a single author, our Father the Creator. Come and see for yourself. Beit is the first of the numbers to be introduced in the Torah. Beit equals 2. Beit equals 2. So that's how we read in the Torah, from the right to the left. It may come as a surprise to you, but the Torah begins with the number 2. That doesn't make sense, one might say. Perhaps from our perspective it doesn't. However, from the Creator's perspective, there is a lot more going on here than one would naturally assume. Keep this clue in your mind for future reference. 2 is the first number that can be divided and yield 2 whole numbers. Therefore, 2 is related to division. Beit is the first of the ordinal numbers to be introduced in the Torah. Beit equals second. You have heard me talk about the numerical structure of the Torah. The ordinal number 2, or second, is the cornerstone of the numerical structure. The numerical structure of the Torah is fabricated around the ordinal value of the consonants. Such is not the case with the study of gematria or numerology. Beit is the first of the consonants to be introduced in the Torah. The Beit sound is the B sound, as in barge or boat. The first barge or non-powered maritime vessel found in the Torah is Noah's Ark. There is a significant connection between Beit and Noah's Ark. which shall be discussed later. And no, I did not pronounce Noach's name incorrectly according to the Hebrew. Beit is the first of 28 consonants in the first verse of the Torah. Now, we're not talking about 28 different consonants, okay? There are just 28 consonants total in the Torah, or in the first verse of the Torah, excuse me. So, Beit is number one of 28 consonants. Again, the first verse of the Torah is comprised of 28 Hebrew consonants. Hold on to that thought. It will have some significance a few moments later. The twofold nature of the consonant Beit is only one dot, or Dagesh, away. Beit. Notice the dot's gone, so it's no longer a Beit. It now is a Veit. First it was a Beit, now it's a Veit. So here we have Beit or Veit. A Dagesh is an internal dot in a letter. The twofold nature of the consonant Beit is determined by the presence of a Dagesh. Beit equals 2. See the dot? Dagesh, Beit equals So Beit equals 2 and Veit equals 2. Beit is the second ordinal. Beit is the second ordinal. Beit means inside. We've had equal, equal. Now we have a not equal. Veit equals void. Now this is interesting. It's interesting because it shows that there's a purpose of having the two different sounds of this same consonant. You're going to find it if you were studying in a classroom situation. I don't think they would be discussing this difference in meaning. It doesn't really come up. The The twofold nature of the consonant Beit is revealed when the Dagesh is taken away. There's the Dagesh. That's a Beit. And there's a Beit, no Dagesh. Now we're going to look at the first occurrences. Now we've already discussed where the first occurrence of a Beit is, so we will be looking also at then where is the first occurrence of a Beit in the text. In other words, how did the author of the text use these two varying forms of the consonant? Beit, as we said, is found in the first, it's the first consonant of the Torah, it's found in the first word of the Torah. The word is bereshit, and it means inside, first of. Now it's found in Bereshit, which for English readers is Genesis, Bereshit chapter 1, verse 1. Inside, first of, Elohim created the whole of the heavens and the whole of the earth. Now that is a literal translation. Va-vo-hu. And you see the Beit in red there? And void. Bereshit 1:2. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and a wind from God moved upon the face of the waters. And notice in those two first occurrences, totally different meanings. Beit is the first of 7 twofold consonants to be introduced in the Torah. 1, Beit and Beit. 2, Gimel and Gimel. We have lost the sound differentiation of the consonant Gimel. We only have one, so perhaps pronounce the first harder than the other. Dalet, Dalet, same situation again. Kaf, K sound, Kaf, CH sound. Pe, Fe. Tav, Tav. Again, we've lost that sound, so we would harden the first. 7, Sheen, Seen. Now notice that in this one, the dot is not inside the letter or the consonant. It is above. And on the consonant Sheen, the dot is on the right side, and on the consonant Seen, it is on the left side. Beit is the first of the 6 twofold consonants, ones that are internally marked, to be introduced in the Torah. So here we have Beit, and Beit, Gimel and Gimel, Dalet and Dalet, Kaf and Chaf, Pe and Fe, Tav and Tav. Now, this is an important thing that you don't have to remember this, but you need to understand that these consonants are special, and they're special because they have a dot inside, and on the other side they don't have the dot, or the Dagesh. Meet the Begad Kapat consonants. Okay, these what they are called, and they're just called that because of the initial sounds that they make. It is recognized that they exist because the scribes of ancient Israel preserved that. But why they exist, that's not been so readily addressed. The first vessel of the Torah contains 28 consonants. Count them as they arise. The third word of the Torah, Elohim, is a name of God. Out of respect for one of his sacred names, the consonant Lamed has been omitted, and you can see that by the underline with nothing above it. There are 28 consonants in this first vessel of the Torah. As I said, please count them for yourself. What is so significant about 28 consonants? I wouldn't even ask this question, but I've learned over the years that nothing is numerically insignificant. So whenever I encounter a number of some kind, I've learned that I need to investigate it because it's going to give me insights. So I'm just showing you here that the very first verse or vessel of the Torah, we have learned a lot of things already, but why is it significant to have 28 consonants? I thought. The first vessel of the Torah is summarizing how the whole of creation was accomplished. It's a summary. And actually verse 2 then begins God's creation in the earth. But this summary has to do with the creation of the heavens and the earth. So, here we have the number 28. 4 times 7 equals 28. You say, well, I don't understand. That doesn't make any sense because nothing's leading that to us. No, well, let's look. There are the factors. There are other factors that you could get to it, but these factors have significance. The fourth principle, action on the part of the Creator, man or both. And in this case, the summary of creation has to do with action on the part of the Creator. So it does fit. There's the 4. The seventh principle, completion, cycle, or a cycle of repeated events. Well, being a summary, it means it was completed. But we do know that the earth and what God created continues. So it must also be a cycle of repeated events involved here as well. There's our 7. 28 relates to 10, a divine command, plus 10, a test of a divine command, plus 8, an exchange, good or bad. Everything that the Creator created, he brought about by his word or a command. The word that is used for command is kind of misleading because the 10 commandments are actually the 10 words. Okay, so he creates things by words, a word of instruction or a command. But he also tests to make sure that everything is functioning according to his plan. That's something we really need to let sink down in our souls. He tests everything he makes. And then it ends with an exchange. Okay? The exchange is what he has made can be for good or bad. What we probably don't realize is that the whole of creation culminates with man, this a creation account that we have here. So man was the purpose and goal of the 6-day creative acts. So that's exchange really has something to do principally with man. So there's our 28, 10 plus 10 plus 8, 28. There's our 28 up there. Just an interesting insight, I suppose. Okay, this, again, for your information only. Learn as you go. Don't try to grasp all this. Don't worry about it. You'll see it again. There are 29 Hebrew consonant sounds. Okay, coming up in front of you now are the 22 Hebrew consonants. And they have a sound. Now coming up, you see the 6 Bagad Kapat consonants. So they also have a sound, a second sound. So now we have to add 6 more sounds to our equation here. Now there's the consonant seen. So that is different, has a different sound than a consonant sheen, but it is the same consonant, and it's not a Bagadka consonant. And what I'd like you to see is an interesting thing here. Sin and Shin are not listed as Begad Kapat consonants. They do not have an internal dot. They are shown externally. But when you put the two sounded consonants together, you have a total of 7. 7 relates to a completion. So the 7s complete the dual sound. These 7 consonants complete the dual sounds. Now what significance that has, I don't know. I've never heard anybody talk about it. So if we sum them up, we're going to wind up with 29 consonant sounds. Consonants are merely initial opening sounds. They require vowels to bring the flow of life to the sounds. And if you look at the first consonant up there, Aleph, to the right, first one, on the top row, Aleph, it begins with a, and then if you add a vowel to it, it's ah. So it begins with a, and if you add a vowel to it, it'll be ah. There are 11 Hebrew vowel sounds. 1 very short, 5 long, and 5 short. Five long vowel sounds, kamat, tse'e, kirik, chulam, shuruk, the 5 short sounds, pasak, segol, hirik, hamatz, kibbutz, leshva, to these are added one very short vowel called shava. Shava is like the E in below. There's a shva. You might consider in looking at it as a very short A sound, a very short and then the short one would be a little bit longer. And what I like to do is when I look at the longer one, I like to add a other H, just extend the sound. So if you get short You might find other, of course, we'll find other schools of thought, but that for me is the easiest way to bring this in. Now, at this point, too, I do want to make an important insertion here. You can criticize people over pronunciation, but pronunciation changes in any language in all parts of the world. Okay, and so if you're a purist and you think you have it just so, and you're critical of this, I am very, I say very, I'm very displeased with people who nitpick over very minute things that really don't mean much, because in the terms of the numerical structure of the Torah, and understanding how the author used things, my knowledge of how you wish to pronounce the vowel is not that important. Matter of fact, it'd be more important for me to know how he pronounced the vowel, and that's not necessarily so clear. The only way we can figure that out is to really work on the usage. So the point that I'm trying to make is, don't make a big deal about pronunciation. Make a bigger deal about understanding what you see is written. And thanks to the sages of Israel for preserving the fact that there are these sound differentiations down to this day. Thank you so much, because without it, we would be at a loss. The Shva is the first of 11 Hebrew major vowel sounds. Here we have our Beit with a Shva, Be as in below, Shwa. Shwa is the weakest of the vowel sounds. It is barely a breath. In modern Hebrew, it is a brief point of pause. The Cholam is a vowel outside of the consonant. Here is a Beit, and here is a Cholam. Beit, now it's Vo, as in boat. The dot, Dagesh, Cholam, outside the letter is a vowel. The dot, Dagesh, inside the letter is not a vowel. The tale of the first occurrences of the two formats of the Bagad Kapat consonant, Beit. And there's Beit. Consonant Beit, a Bagad Kapat consonant. Beit, first number, ordinal consonant of the Torah. Dagesh, Shwa, weakest of the vowels. Be plus e or e in below. Neither be A B with a quick stopped E. Be. Here's Beit. Consonant Beit, a Bagad Kapat consonant. A Cholam, long O vowel. The first Beit is the 42nd consonant of the Torah. The first Beit is the beginning consonant of the Hebrew word vohu, meaning void or empty. Beit is related to the concept of void, but Beit is related to the concept of inside. The Dagesh can also be placed in all 22 consonants. Be, as in below, Dagesh. When a Dagesh is found inside a consonant, something is going on. The Dagesh marks a matter of emphasis. The Dagesh can harden, emphasize the sound of the consonant. The Dagesh can double the sound of the consonant, such as in rubber. The Dagesh can identify a Bagad Kapat consonant. Hebrew was the original language. Zephaniah 3:8 is the only verse in the Bible containing the whole of the Hebrew alphabet, the finals, vowel points, and etc. The subject of this verse is a declaration of God's wrath and indignation towards the latter days for the iniquity of the nations in violating the laws God delivered to them in a pure language. The composition of this verse, God in the following verse promises to return the same towards the latter end. This is by the Reverend Solomon Lyon, circa the early 1800s. Zephaniah 3:8. Therefore wait for me, says the Lord, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them my indignation, my fierce anger. For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. Here is a photocopy of the inside of the book. That's a theological Hebrew grammar and lexicon. Reverend Solomon Lyon is a Jewish, or was a Jewish scholar who taught Hebrew, and this grammar, I know I said we won't use anything but the Torah, but we are not scholars in the Hebrew language, and therefore sometimes we get in deep water and we need help. This this book is one that stands out among all of the grammar books that I've ever come across. And the reason is because he is so dedicated to the Creator in his examination and explanation of classical Hebrew. And you can actually purchase this book at this website here, and I highly recommend it. It is not easy reading. However, what you can understand, and there's much of it that I don't understand, the notes are amazing. They're absolutely amazing. So again, this is just for your information. It's not nothing you have to go out and buy. But if you're ever going to buy something and you want to look at something from the theological perspective, not from a religious perspective, from a theological perspective. Jealousy. Wow. Could the Creator be jealous? I must admit, when I first started investigating this concept, I was kind of a little taken back, because this is a strong statement that the Creator makes in the foundation, and we're going to see the foundational introduction of this concept of divine jealousy. I personally would not, in this day and age, like to consider myself as jealous, define myself as jealous. People go around trying to explain who God is, and God says that He is merciful, and that, of course, is the name that we have as the focal point of understanding the Creator. But here, He's making a statement about jealousy. For God to say that He's jealous, this is something that we really need to investigate and understand. And we're going to do that at this moment, following the principles of the numerical structure of the Torah. And I guarantee it'll be interesting. The first occurrence of divine jealousy. Now notice, I'm not talking about jealousy, the first occurrence of jealousy. I'm talking about the first occurrence of divine jealousy. So we're only talking about divine jealousy here. Shemot, or Exodus, chapter 20, verse 5. You shall not bow down yourself to them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. Now, this is a strong statement. It comes from what is known as the Ten Commandments, but it is actually the testimony of the covenant. If you are in violation of any of these 10 things, you are in violation of the covenant. So this is a serious matter. The foundation, that's what this is. Numerical principle number 1. The Creator is the foundation of everything. And here, God says, I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God. That's the foundational principle of divine jealousy. Jealousy is first found in the third vessel of the second commandment of the testimony of the covenant. This word, not jealousy, the word or the commandment, is comprised of 4 vessels. Now, why all that information? Well, I can tell you right now that since it is found in the third vessel, it means you're encountering the Creator. It is found in the second commandment, and this is because he's going to explain 2 aspects of something here that causes division or separation. And it is comprised of 4 vessels. That means it's related to action. Action here on the part of God and the part of man. So the numerical structure is letting us know by the location of all these things that how we should be looking at this word. The foundation of jealousy is idolatry. And that foundation is the first vessel of the second commandment concerning no graven images, although it does not say that. We'll see in a moment what it does say, but it is related to graven images. Idolatry is parallel with adultery. Now, we take that kind of thing lightly in over centuries. It's even gotten much worse. Adultery is not a big issue. The 10 words are given on 2 tablets. Let's say 1 tablet on the right and 1 tablet on the left. And it's an assumption, but I would assume that the first tablet would be on the right. And that tablet has to do with the realm of divine relationships. And that, of course, is where we're going to find this command. And here is the initial part of that word, which contains the element of divine jealousy. It begins with, "You shall have no other gods before me." And what he means is, in my face or in my presence, you shall have no other gods before me. So that's in the realm of divine relationships, but perhaps we have a little difficulty in, there's always liberals who want to explain things away, and probably there are always hardcore conservatives who want to tend to go off the other end. So to help us to understand, we have a parallel tablet that has 5 parallels. So when I say parallels, the first commandment on the first tablet would parallel the 6th command on the second tablet, and the second one parallels the 7th, and the 3rd parallels the 8th, and the 4th parallels the 9th, and the 5th parallels the 10th. So it we are on the second one here, so let's take another look here. The realm of human relationships. So now we can see what the parallel here is in the realm of human relationships. And we can feel what God is trying to bring to our attention. And that is, you shall not commit adultery. So we can see right away that adultery is maintaining 2 relationships at the same time. And God does not permit that. There is a separate Torah teaching about jealousy regarding the marital relationship found in Bamidbar, chapter 5. That is Numbers, chapter 5. And you can get a sense of what jealousy is in the realm of human relationships in the eyes of the Torah. The covenant nation of Israel is measured by the actions of every man. And this comes from Joshua chapter 7. And this is something that when you realize the impact of this, let me give you an idea of what we're talking about here. This is related to the story of during the siege, their first entering into the land of Canaan, and one Israelite from the tribe of Judah named Achan decided that he would keep for himself some of the devoted property that belonged to the Lord, and immediately the whole nation of Israel began to suffer. The nation of Israel, the whole nation of Israel, was accountable for that one man's transgression. And it exists to that day. Israel has had a tough time, some on their own part, but we need to understand from their perspective. Living in the presence of the Creator is an awesome thing, and it requires total dedication. The second occurrence of divine jealousy, Shemot, Exodus 34:14. For you shall worship no other God, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. Division, or two aspects. Numerical principle number 2. Division, separation, or two aspects of a matter. The two aspects are: 1. His name is jealous. His name is jealous. 2. He is a jealous God. Whew. The third occurrence of divine jealousy. I don't usually do this, but I'm going to give you a clue. 3 alludes to an encounter with the Creator. So you can be looking ahead here. Shemot, Exodus 34:14. For you shall worship no other God, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. You say, well, wait a minute, we just did that verse. Well, yes, we did, but we only looked at the first or the second occurrence of divine jealousy. The third occurrence is underlined in front of you. Is a jealous God. Now, that is where we encounter the Creator. Think about that. A divine encounter. Numerical principle number 3. an encounter with the Creator. Man encounters a jealous God. Whoa. Oh my. Man should not worship any other God. Nothing should detract man from having a relationship with the Creator. The fourth occurrence of divine jealousy. Bamidbar, or Numbers 25:11. Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, has turned my anger away from the people of Israel, while he was zealous for my sake among them, that I consumed not the people of Israel in my jealousy. Action. Numerical principle number 4. Action on the part of the Creator, man, or both. The same 3 Hebrew consonants which form the word jealousy in this vessel are also found in the word zealous. Phinehas was like-minded in judgment according to Creator's perspective on the licentious behavior of the people of Israel. The 5th occurrence of divine jealousy. Devarim, Deuteronomy 4:24. For the Lord your God is a consuming fire, a jealous God. Honor and respect. Numerical principle number 5. Honor and respect for parents, one's creators, and a long life. A consuming fire cuts short a long life. A consuming fire is ignited by the lack of respect for the Creator and His Torah, or His instructions. Only our third parent can guarantee a long life. The 6th occurrence of divine jealousy. Devarim, Deuteronomy 5:9. You shall not bow down yourself to them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the 3rd and 4th generation of those who hate me. This one is related to mankind. Numerical principle number 6. Related to mankind or human nature. Now you say, oh, wait a minute. That is the same verse that we saw back in the beginning. Well, here's a little something that you may not be aware of, but we now have moved to the 2nd covenant. That first covenant of 10 words, that testimony of that covenant, was broken at the incidence of the golden calf. And God was jealously angry enough to destroy the whole nation of Israel, and Moses pleaded with the Creator, and the Creator, although he pardoned according to Moses' request, He said that that generation would all have to die in the wilderness. Actually, only 2 men survived the wilderness experience. An interesting story, and those 2 men are Joshua and Caleb. This now is the second covenant. Not many people want to look at it this way. The first covenant, it was broken. This is the second covenant that is given to the children of that generation. The choice now is theirs. So that's why we're getting to start over again. Now, also, the first covenant is given in 13 vessels as 10 words. The second covenant is given in 13 vessels and has 10 words or commands, except the second covenant is different. There are modifications made to it, and only by looking at it carefully can you find those modifications. But principle number 6 is showing you why those modifications were made. They were made related to mankind or human nature. So we'll talk about that in another study, but everything in the Torah has its reason. This command is totally related to mankind and human nature. It is human nature to follow the path of one's parents, even if they are negating the commands of the Creator. The 7th occurrence of divine jealousy. Devarim, Deuteronomy 6:15. For the Lord your God is a jealous God among you, lest the anger of the Lord your God be kindled against you and destroy you from the face of the earth. Completion or cycle. Numerical principle number 7. Completion, cycle, or cycle of repeated events. It should by now be completely understood that the Creator is a jealous God. It should also be understood that He shall continue to be a jealous God. His jealous anger can be repeated over and over since He does not change. The 8th occurrence of divine jealousy. Devarim, Deuteronomy 29:19. The Lord will not spare him, but then the anger of the Lord and His jealousy shall smoke against that man, and all the curses that are written in this book shall lie upon him, and the Lord shall blot out his name from under heaven. An exchange. Numerical principle number 8. An exchange, good or bad. The jealous anger transforms the blessings into curses. The jealous anger blots the transgressor's name from under heaven. As far as the Creator is concerned, the transgressor does not exist anymore. The 9th occurrence of divine jealousy. Devarim, Deuteronomy 32:16. They provoked him to jealousy with strange gods, with abominations provoked they him to anger. Now, this is functional. The numerical principle, number 9, tov, or good. Something functioning according to the divine plan. The divine plan allows for every man to make his own choice. When man on his own chooses to honor and respect the Creator, his life becomes functional. The 10th occurrence of divine jealousy. Devarim, Deuteronomy 32:21. They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not God. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities, and I will move them to jealousy with those who are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. Divine command, numerical principle, number 10. A divine command, covenant, oath, or test of a command. They have rejected the divine commands. They have broken the divine covenant. They have failed the test of the commands. Measure for measure they shall receive. Well, there are only 10 occurrences of divine jealousy in the Torah, and that is significant in itself. Jealousy. The Creator is jealous because that is how special you are to Him. Remember, it's not just to the nation of Israel. It's down to every person. Here's a brief review of some of the things we've encountered in our study. The 10 foundational principles that form the structure of the Torah and possibly the whole of creation. The consonant Beit is also number 2 and ordinal second. The Creator is the author of the Torah. We can learn Torah and study Hebrew simultaneously. Beit is the first consonant in the Torah. Most of what is being taught is from scientific observations of the text. Beit, or 2, is the first number that can be divided and yield 2 whole numbers. The numerical structure of the Torah is fabricated around the ordinal value of the consonants. Beit is the B sound, as in barge. There is a connection between Beit and Noah's Ark. Beit is the first of 28 consonants found in the first verse or vessel of the Torah. A Dagesh is a dot placed inside of a consonant. Beit with a Dagesh and Beit without a Dagesh. Here are a few more things to add to our list. Beit and Beit have different meanings. Beit is related to inside and Beit is related to void. There are 7 consonants that have 2 differing sounds. There are 6 special consonants that have 2 sounds are called Bagat Kapat. The 28 consonants of the first vessel involve 3 principles, the 4th, the 7th, and the 28th. There are 29 consonant sounds. The vowels bring the flow of life to the consonants. There is 1 very short vowel, 5 short vowels, and 5 long vowels. The schwa is the shortest vowel. A dagesh outside of a letter is a vowel. A dagesh can also be placed in all 22 consonants. Zephaniah 3:8 contains all the Hebrew consonants and vowels. Hebrew was the original language of mankind. Here is one of the biggest insights that we have encountered in our discussion. The Creator loves us immensely beyond our ability to understand. The Creator is jealous of the time we spend in falsehoods. The Lord our God is a jealous God. He is jealous of the time we spend in falsehood of any nature. Look how much we have learned about the Torah and the ancient Hebrew language. The chief reason to learn the ancient Hebrew should be to understand the Creator's teachings. We have been simultaneously learning his teachings in ancient Hebrew without the pain of rote linguistic exercises. A closing word of instruction to a man of understanding, a maskil. I really don't have too much opportunity to spend on this right now, but a maskil is a special person, and that is my goal in life, and I hope it becomes everyone's goal in life. Thus says the Lord, let not the wise man glory in his wisdom, nor let the mighty man glory in his might. Let not the rich man glory in his riches. But let him who glories glory in this, that he understands and knows me, that I am the Lord who exercises loving kindness, justice, and righteousness in the earth. For in these things I delight, says the Lord. Amen. Baruch atah Hashem. Oh wow, the Torah is truly a luminous lamp upon our path of understanding. Before you leave, if you would like to see more videos related to the numerical structure of the Torah, please tell your friends and family about our YouTube channel, Torah 123, and our website, avipublications.com. Subscribe to our channel. Ring the bell. Most of all, share what you have learned. Please join us for our next journey down the path of understanding concerning the numerical structure of the Torah. Also, please visit avpublications.com and Torah123 for more informative articles related to the numerical structure of the Torah. Shalom. Teaching timeless Torah truths that are innovative, informative, and imperative. Torah 123, Avi Publications. Shalom.